morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 29th of December, year of our Lord 2023. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle. We have a big show in store for you today. Pretty emotional one, too. Like, it might get weirdly emotional. I'm going to get in my feels probably once or twice. I can't promise I won't cry at some point, like inexplicably. We're not going to talk about anything serious per se. It's just going to be about sports. But you guys, such is life on this channel, on this show, and with this guy. Before I jump into anything, though, you want to know something dumb? If the image quality looks even 10% better, it's because I didn't realize there was a piece of like plastic film over the lens of the camera that I use for this show for the last 14 episodes. I never noticed it. I took it out of the packaging, everything. Never realized it. I just stripped it off like 30 seconds ago. So if the image, again, looks even that much better, fractionally, marginally, synonyms better, that's why. It's because there was a piece of plastic film over it. So we're going to talk a lot today about Detroit sports. But before we do any of that, how weird has this NBA season been? And I don't even totally mean weird in terms of stuff that has only happened on the court. Because if we go down the list, yeah, the Pistons are in the midst of like the longest losing streak in the history of almost any major sport in America. And of course, we will talk about that later. But then you also had at the beginning of the season, Kelly Oubre getting hit by a car. And that was like, then we subsequently had like 4 days of people sort of questioning the authenticity of that incident and being like, did something nefarious happen here? I actually don't believe that Kelly Oubre would have ever have been in a position where he could have been hit by a car. That was coded. That was wild. Turns out he just got hit by a car. Weird. Even Christmas Day, Aaron Gordon being attacked by a dog. I mean, he's fine, but what was it, 21 stitches, lacerations to his face and to his shooting hand? What's going on there? You have the Celtics with this insane home record. You had the Timberwolves early in the season with this insane home record. Timberwolves kind of having like almost like a renaissance season. And then we also have one of the takes that I have been marinating. It's been in the crock pot. I've been saying this for months. Is Matt Ishbia just Joseph Tsai 2.0? Because when these tech billionaires get into the NBA, however Matt Ishbia made his money, actually, wasn't his mortgages? Isn't that how Matt Ishbia made his money? It was probably unethical and stupid, however he made his money. But they get into the league, right? They get a seat at the table, and what do they want to do? They want to take the big swing. That's what they want to do. Joseph Tsai did it, right? We talked about it in the holiday special of the Coping Hour just on Monday. The clean sweep, as it were. And then when that was kind of rocky, what did they do? They're like, fuck it, let's just go get James Harden. Let's just make this a whole thing. Let's go get James Harden. What did the Suns do? They're like, this Booker stuff is fun. Let's go get Chris Paul. Okay, that's cool. Well, that's Robert Sarver. We're going to bring in Matt Ishbia, and then Matt Ishbia is like, this isn't that fun. We're actually going to go get Kevin Durant. Let's go get KD. At the deadline, right? That's when it was. It's like at midnight, the middle of the night. Kevin Durant is just all of a sudden a Phoenix Sun. Huh? Fast forward into the summer. It finally happens. The domino finally falls. Bradley Beal gets out of Washington, ends up in Phoenix. Now we're hearing some weird stuff. Now we're hearing some weird stuff in the midst of Phoenix kind of having this iffy, what are they, 15-15, 500, near 500, kind of hovering, kind of what are they, what aren't they? Can that quote-unquote big three actually play a game together? I'd love to see it. Can Bradley Beal fucking suit up for more than 60 games once? Can we get that out of Bradley Beal once? I guess not. Now there's this report coming out from Woj that like, is there some tension between KD and maybe either the roster or the front office? And then KD comes out and is like, I literally didn't say any of this. The report is that somebody else said that I'm feeling some type of way. What the hell? But when my teammates and my coaches speak on my behalf and like how good of a dude I am. Nobody wants to listen to that. He's right, by the way. That's weird. You also had, I think, against the Mavericks was the incident where Book was just pissed off and he sprints into the tunnel. Matt Ishbia chases after him. Are the wheels falling off? You know, I've said before I was telegraphing it as like a Devin Booker is going to come home to Detroit one day kind of a thing. And my thing is this, right? Why did this report come out and who did it come from? Because if it didn't come from Kevin Durant, then who, like, the call is coming from inside the house, right? Let's entertain the idea that it did come from Kevin Durant. I'd be kind of pissed off, honestly. To an extent, I would be pissed off with the result, but I would also have to acknowledge that this is my own doing. You know what I mean? I'm Kevin Durant, and the second that I crossed that, like, 30-year-old threshold, I decided I don't want to play on bad teams anymore. I don't want to play with bad guys anymore. I want to be on a team that is going to be a contender, you know, not just because I'm there, right? I don't want to be the only reason that we're sort of in the mix. I think people get more shit. People give players, not just in the NBA, but mainly in the NBA, because it's easier to sort of team up with good guys in the NBA than it is in any other sport, unless you're the fucking Dodgers, I guess. Because ultimately, like, none of us want to be on a bad team. None of us would want to have bad teammates, so I don't really fault Kevin Durant for that. But here's the thing, dude. Like, this is what you wanted. You got what you wanted in Brooklyn, too, and it didn't work. And so you're like, I'm going to go to Phoenix, and we're going to do the exact same thing. And whatever resources that our GM had available, he had to exhaust all of them. Whatever assets we had, he had to exhaust all of them. Whatever financial flexibility that we thought that we had to exhaust all of it. And that's maybe the craziest part, is how we looked at Phoenix, you know, after the Bradley Beal deal. Word to Dr. Seuss, no rhyme intended. The way that Phoenix was kind of able to work on the quote-unquote financial margins to piece together a roster. We did the same thing with the Lakers, where we're like, damn, did they kind of come out all right from this? Did they handicap themselves in a way that we were like, they're cooked? Like, cool, you have these three guys, but what are you going to do after? And then we kind of came out of it, and we're like, oh, maybe this is actually going to work. Maybe the only way that this can actually work is if Bradley Beal plays a fucking game. But again, I can only say all of that, you know, this is Kevin Durant's fault, if it's true that he's the one that kind of put this stealth word out there through Woj. Which, by the way, like, what does Woj do? He's fucking TMZ for the NBA. And I'm a sicko for, like, gossip. I'm a sicko for tea. I love reading, like, tabloids, right? That's all Woj is. Woj doesn't do, like, some, like, investigative, like, journalism, some, like, hard-hitting shit. He just knows everybody. Everybody has his number, and that's just the vessel through which you go through in order to get information out. It's him or Shams. It's like, who has a better relationship with the GM, or who has a better relationship with, like, an agent, you know, some front office senior executive, whatever it is. That's literally all that it is. It's the same thing with Shams, by the way. I'm not just shitting on Woj, just shitting on Woj. But, like, I don't understand what they do and what value they bring to the quote-unquote, and I hate to be the asshole who's like, the art of journalism and the craft of reporting, because I know most people don't actually give a shit about that, but, like, he's not in the trenches. He's kind of, like, in the captain's quarters. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's always rubbed me the wrong way. It's always been fucking weird. This, like, who was first culture is weird. I don't care. I actually just care that the information was correctly reported. Didn't Shams fuck up the details of the Dame trade because he was, like, typing too fast? Or, again, he was just trying to get it out first? Weird. That's weird. What was this opening for? I didn't realize this already went for 10 minutes. What was this opening for? It's just been a weird year, man. Let's talk about something exciting. I didn't get a chance to talk about this on Monday because it was a pre-recorded show, and I didn't want to put the horse ahead of the cart, the cart ahead of the horse. I didn't want to be riding a horse that fell off of a cliff, I think is what I'm trying to say, and do like 10 minutes on the Lions winning the NFC North, just for them to lose against the Vikings, right? Because that wouldn't have looked great. This is my moment to do it. So turn down the volume for a second, okay? All right, I'm going to start yelling, okay? The Detroit Lions won the fucking division. For the first time in my life, it's been 30 years. I've never seen them be this fucking good. I've never believed every single Sunday that my football team was going to fucking win. I have no idea what that feels like until now. Until now. You can turn the volume back up. I'm not going to yell anymore. While I don't go into every single Sunday, I need to stop saying quote unquote. What the fuck's going on in this episode? I don't go into every single game expecting that they're going to win. It's more like I just have more hope than I ever have in my life, right? I'm not going to talk too much about the Cowboys game because this is coming out on Friday. The game is on Saturday. The shelf life of it just isn't great, so I don't want to make predictions that aren't going to. I'll say two things really quick. One, if Micah Parsons does literally anything at all, if he gets God forbid he gets a strip sack, just know I will be on my hands and knees fucking throwing up and crying, okay? I'm terrified of Micah Parsons. He's like the only Cowboy in my entire life that like shakes me to my core because he's so good, right? Dez was awesome, but we had Calvin. Calvin was better than Dez. He just was. Zeke, I guess. Zeke was cool. I liked him, but I wasn't like terrified of Zeke. Dak, I respect. I respect Dak. CD, he's just nasty. CD is just nasty, and I don't hate him. I also don't hate Micah Parsons, but like CD doing something cool against my team, I can probably appreciate. If Micah Parsons does something cool against my team, it means he got like a fucking 15-yard sack and like Jared Goff got his fucking shit rocked, right? That's not fun to me. I'm expecting CD Lamb to go for 180 yards through the air, right? That's fine. He's probably going to look awesome when he does it. Great NFL on-field fashion from CD Lamb. He was even the same way at Oklahoma. But anyways, I truly don't. There are so many of you out there who are fans of teams who at some point in your life, you've at least won one division, right? You got to understand that with how Detroit sports is right now, and we're going to talk about the Pistons in a little bit, that the Pistons had to die in order for the Lions to sort of see the light of day. There was a moment earlier this season where my brother and I were talking, and we're the two biggest Matthew Stafford heads in the world. The same way that Raven fans are with Joe Flacco, right? Like at the end of the day, it's Joe, that's your guy. Lamar Jackson is like an MVP, but like there was always going to be a soft spot in your heart for Joe Flacco because he actually won you a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? That was a real thing that happened. Joe Flacco in the playoffs was amazing. He was elite. You kind of had to have this moment as a Lions fan where you're like, what if Jared Goff does it? Like, what if Jared Goff is the one to not just get us a division title, something that, as much as we love Matthew Stafford, he never did it. Whether it was because Aaron Rodgers was in the division or maybe, Matthew Stafford never had a run game. We never had a 100-yard rusher with Matthew Stafford. Not never, but you know what I mean. I could go down the list of all these reasons why this stuff never happened, but we also never won a playoff game, and we still haven't done that with Jared Goff. We're still waiting to see. I would say the odds are in our favor that we will win the wild card round if you don't get the 1 seed, which is definitely something to keep an eye on. I talked earlier about the Timberwolves having a renaissance season. The Lions and the Browns simultaneously having one is unprecedented. The last time this happened was the 50s. In a year that both teams ended up playing each other in the championship, by the way. Isn't it shocking how much easier it is to root for the Browns when they don't have fucking R. Kelly at quarterback? Isn't that insane? That you actually turn on a Browns game and you're like, and it's not really because it's Joe Flacco. It's funny because it's Joe Flacco, but it's more because it's like, first of all, the defense. If Nick Chubb was healthy, it would be because of Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper he had the game on like a week on Sunday, right, where he went berserk. David Njoku, we talk about him on the show all the time. Love him. But as somebody who, wakes up on most Sundays in my life, and I know what's going to happen in a Lions game, to go home to Michigan over the holidays and seeing, going out in public, every third person that you see is repping the Lions. I've never seen this much genuine pride for this team in my life, and I cannot explain to you how much that means to me. When I'm driving around in Metro Detroit, we're in Novi, we're driving out to Detroit to, go to a Pistons game. Every 5 miles, there's a billboard up saying, "Congrats, Lions. You fucking made the playoffs. You won the division. Like, you did it." I wanted to honk the horn every single time, pound my chest into the ground. Let's fucking go. You're goddamn right. The search that I had to go on to get my hands on every single piece of division title merchandise that the Lions have produced was exhausting. I had to go everywhere because it was sold out everywhere, because Lions fans have waited and waited and waited and waited and waited for this. We have waited for a team to be proud of. We have waited for a product to look forward to watching. We have waited for a coach to embrace the fans, to embrace the city, to embrace the culture, to create his own culture that reflects the people that root for the team. There's nobody who gets it like he does. He's the most famous guy on the team. He just is. He's the face of the Lions. It's not crazy to say that about a coach. You know what I mean? But for the most part, if we're talking about if the NFL is doing power rankings on Instagram, right, and every slide it's like, oh, number 1, Eagles, they're going to show a picture of Jalen Hurts, right? If it's the Bills, they're going to show Diggs or they're going to show Josh. If it's the Chiefs, yeah, maybe they'll show Andy Reid, but they're probably going to show Pat or they're probably going to show Travis Kelce. We can go down the list. If they show the Lions, they're not showing Jared. They're not showing Hutch. They're not showing Amon-Ra. They're showing Dan. They're showing Dan fucking Campbell because he's the dude. It's not, no pun intended, right? But for Brad Holmes to come in here and do what he's done, for him and Dan to be on the same page about, how we want to play, how we want to utilize these guys that we're going out and getting in free agency, that we're going out and getting in the draft. For Sheila, God bless her, has to be like the most like, is she the best owner in football? Fuck it. Yeah. Honestly, yes. Because of what we've dealt with out of the Ford family in the past, yes. Sheila, thank God for you. Thank God for Sheila Ford Hamp. Sheila Hamp Ford? Sheila Ford Hamp? Sheila. We'll call her Sheila. There was a moment on Sunday where when it finally kind of sunk in and I'm an emotional guy, man. I was holding this hat in the car when I got it. I was just staring at it, right? I never in a million years thought I would see this, and I'm so serious. I never in a million years. I have been beaten down my entire life rooting for this team. I'm about to start doing it. I'm really, really trying not to. I'm so serious. Because I care. I care way too much about this shit, man. But to look at box scores and to look at, and you see we're on the verge of having 2,000-yard receivers, 2,000-yard rushers. Laporte is not getting to 1,000 yards, but Gibbs and Monty getting to 1,000 yards on the ground, yeah. Montgomery's going to get there. Gibbs, he needs 2 more big weeks, but he can get there. Amon-Ra's already over 1,000, right? If he's not, he's going to get there. For Jared Goff to just completely come into his own and not really transcend the way that he's playing the game, I think really to just, it really can't be understated how valuable it is to just be on the same page as your offensive coordinator. For your offensive coordinator to understand your strengths and to understand your tendencies. You know what I mean? Jared's willingness to this is going to sound dumb, but Jared, step up in the pocket once, right? Don't just fall over. And there's he's been doing that, so he's not getting, because once you pressure Jared, he's cooked, right? Pressure cooker. Pressure cooker? Is that a good nickname for Micah Parsons? Pressure cooker? Because then it's he's explosive, he's a bomb. You know what I mean? Not that Micah Parsons is a bomb. Well, kind of he is. He is the bomb beyond insanity. Who's your dream guest for Hot Ones? The Detroit Lions won the division. And I didn't cry in this segment. Almost did. But now it's time to talk about something not so fun. But I tell you what, man, if you really wanted to see me cry, you should have been with me at that Pistons-Nets game. I was inconsolable in the car. Like, when we got home and I'm with my in-laws and, like, it's a whole thing, and I'm, like, really trying. Because for them, it's, like, a fun, you know, and it should have been, and it totally should have been. For me, man, that was history. This is my life. Seriously, this is how I make my living, is by talking about this shit. So when you want to talk about the highest I've been on Sunday with the Lions getting over the hump and doing something I, honest to God, never thought that they would do, to a few days later, just on Tuesday, I show up and the Pistons make history. The longest single-season streak, losing streak in the history of the NBA. Did I watch the Celtics game? Do I have any takes on that? No. I don't. I don't have anything to say. Alec Burks does not belong in the NBA. James Wiseman does not belong in the NBA. Isaiah Livers, I saw a comment on Reddit like a week or two ago, and I have not seen a better take, a more elegant take about Isaiah Livers than this. If I saw Isaiah Livers on the side of the road changing his tire, I would help him. If I saw him trying to do that, like doing a one trip, you know, bringing your groceries in where you're like carrying 6 bags on your pinky and you got like one wrapped, you know what I'm talking about? When you're like, let's try to get this all out of the car in one trip. If I saw him doing one of those, Isaiah Livers, I would help you, dude. I would offer you a fucking hand because you're an awesome guy. He's an awesome guy. Truly a great human being. But he fucking stinks. He fucking stinks. And the fact that we've been pumped this shit from the front office and it trickles down and our beat reporter is fucking talking about, oh, they really like Isaiah Livers. Why? I get why. If you look at him, he's a big body and he can stretch, right? He can knock that shit down. Can he, though? What did he shoot last year? Like 35%? That's not nothing. I think people get too fixated on like 38 to 41%. There are a lot of people who use like 40% as their bar for like a good 3-point shooter. That's not, I don't think that's a good barometer for it. Now, like what I'm about to say doesn't totally go in line, but if you're successful 33, a third of the time in baseball, you're in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Shooting 33% from 3. If you go 1 for 3 every night, I mean, that's not 2 for 6 every night. I'd prefer to make 1 or 2 more, but like, that's fine, dude. Like, that's not nothing. But he just doesn't make shots and he fucking doesn't do anything else. And that's the biggest problem with the Pistons right now. I don't know if this is going to be a surprise to you that I still have shit to say about this team. Like, every episode, I can do 30 minutes on this team. And it could be fresh. It could be something I haven't said before. You want to know something I haven't said about this team before and why they don't fucking work? Is because the Detroit Pistons have too many guys that need the ball in their hands. And they have too many guys that don't do fucking anything without it. That if they don't have it, they fucking shrivel and they throw up and they slide down the wall and they cry and they sit there. Or you're Alec Burks and you finally get the ball and you just fucking chuck it out of bounds. In like a crucial moment, James Wiseman is like, duh, I'm going to step in front of fucking Jaden Ivey while he's on this drive and then I'm going to fuck up a putback because I suck. When they lost that Nets game, because we were so close to the floor, I can hear Cade. I can hear him. I can see his facial expressions. Like, it's a really raw moment at the end of that game where he is just, like, blown in a million pieces. He's ripped apart. And that hurt. Because I'm looking up at that Jumbotron and I see 41. You literally can't take him out of these games. The second the bench unit comes in, the second those second unit guys come in, it's a wrap. It's over. Why are we still pretending that Wiseman can play when Bagley, no meme, like no bullshit, has proven that he's an NBA player? He just is. He just is. It's easy to shit on him because his name is Marvin fucking Bagley, but if you be fucking for real for 2 seconds, he's like one of the only guys who actually is starting to understand what his role in the NBA is. People were bitching about the extension that he got from Troy. Looks like a pretty good number right now, actually. Comparatively, doesn't look that bad. It's really heart-wrenching to me to see a guy care so much about winning. And he does everything that and I'm talking about Cade, and he does everything that he can every single night. Yeah, man, he has bad turnovers. He does. He does. But when people give me shit because I refuse to blame the players, you just got to be fucking for real, man. Even the ones that stink, by the way, I hardly blame them because it's just not on them. All these guys were set up to fail. I'd argue because people are like, why don't you blame Monty for more shit? I was talking to Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, last night about this, and he asked me, he was like, how much do you hate Monty on a scale of 1 to 10? And I was like, it teeters from a 5 to a 15. Because on some nights, I'm like, dude, he wanted the check, and he was set up to fail, and, like, whatever. You look at his record with and without Chris Paul on his team, and it's interesting. You're like, oh, A point that Jacob had that I thought was great was, like, is there a coach in recent memory who's had a bigger fall from grace? You know, from how we were talking about Monty, 2 years ago, even before he got the job with the Suns, right? To now, what people are saying about him. It's bizarre. The things that I don't like, the fact that he's insistent on playing James Wiseman over Marvin Bagley. The fact that Marvin Bagley has been a healthy scratch on some nights because he's like, no, we actually just want to get a good look at Wiseman. I actually think we know what James Wiseman is, and it's not an NBA player. It's not. Not here, at least. I would argue that, does Sadiq Bey even fit on the Hawks? Does that even make sense? I think he would probably be better in, like, Golden State, which is probably where he should have been redirected in that trade anyways, honestly. It bothers me because, which, by the way, Cade deserves a night off. He does. I think it's safe to say that this guy just needs, like, a break mentally. I mean, hey, I'm not trying to get in his head if he wants to play in these games. Dude, by all means, please play in these fucking games. Keep showing people who you really are. Because if they say anything other than he's that fucking guy, he's a dude in the league, they're wrong. They're idiots. They're not watching the games. Do not listen to them. It hurts because we've seen this before. We just talked about Matthew Stafford. It's the same picture.jpg. Spider-Man pointing .meme. It's the same shit. It's crazy to me that there are people who are like, oh man, he's gonna leave, like he's gonna go somewhere. He's not, though. He's not. I'm fascinated to see what this shakeup is gonna be. My dream scenario is they do a 2018-esque Cavs at the trade deadline, where in a span of 30 to 40 minutes, their roster had 7 to 8 new guys. I mean, it was a total makeover. It was a total, like, it was a different team. They ended up going to the finals, right? That's not happening here. They had LeBron. A glaring omission of the fact that they had fucking LeBron. Can I tell you something else that's really bothering me? Can I give you the most selfish take about the Pistons being as bad as they are that I can possibly deliver? My misery is not your fucking content, dude. And I'm not talking about me specifically, but the fact that people think that they could just come into the fucking Pistons subreddit, I'm a Wizards fan coming in peace. I'm a Timberwolves fan coming in peace. That is the grossest shit in the world. There's not an I was going to say you must be 5 years old. There's not an acceptable age for that kind of behavior. You're fucking nasty. You're sick. You got me fucked up if you think unless you're literally a process Sixers fan or like a 12 years ago Cavs fan, do not fucking talk to me about how you've been there. Don't. Fucking don't. Because I don't know if you've been watching the news. We're breaking records, which means nobody has lost as many games as us. Fucking nobody. No one. You don't know what it feels like. I have earned the right to be selfish about, oh my God, I can't fucking get enough of how much content there is about what's going on with the Pistons. What's going wrong with the Pistons? And then they just like look through the fucking transaction log and they're like, this trade looked bad. Fuck you. You don't even know. You don't even know. You think you know, you don't know, you weren't there. You were not boots on the ground. You weren't watching. You didn't know the context. You didn't know the context at the time. Even if it looks ridiculous now and it was ridiculous then, you don't fucking know. It bothers me so much. And I'm so protective over this goddamn team for no reason at all. For literally no reason at all. Because here's the truth. You want to know the real truth here? If this was any other team, let's say it was the Wizards this year, right? Let's say we just flipped And because what do the Wizards have? Like only 3 more wins than us. Let me sidetrack for 2 seconds. That's another thing that pisses me off is this. If it wasn't for the Pistons being generationally bad, like the Spurs and the Wizards are not that far behind us. They're really not. You know what I mean? That's annoying to me. But you have so many people chiming in on this. And you have so many people watching these games because they just can't believe it. They have to see for themselves. You know, all press is good press. There's no such thing as bad press. This doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great. Literally, if you're not a Pistons fan, I just don't even want to fucking see your content. But that's what I was going to say. If this was any other team, I'd be pumping shit out. I like to think I wouldn't, right? I like to think I'd make one video or two. I would get jokes off here and there, but for the most part, I don't know if you guys can tell. This is all I can make content about right now. This is literally all that I can, because it's jaded me to like the rest of the league until we win a game. When I talk about, you know, you guys will send an email about like the Mavs. And I'll be like, I'm going to have to wait till they play the Pistons. Because right now it's like hard for me to go out of my way and just turn on League Pass and put on like a Blazers Kings game. Because I'm so consumed by what's happening in Detroit that it's not that I don't care and it's not that it's not fun, but it's like it hurts. Man. And this is what I was saying with the Lions, where you kind of you're just being yanked around. And I could easily, it's like the Tyler, the Creator tweet where he's like, how is cyberbullying real? Like, close your eyes, look away from the screen. I could just not watch these games, but it's all that I know, man. Like, this is my team. This is what I care about. This is like, it's my life. And to subject myself to watching these kids, like, I guess, trying their best, I would argue some of them are not. But can you really blame them for that? I mean, where the morale is at right now. Alec Burks' morale, by the way, looks like it's pretty fucking high. He looks like he's having a good time out there after the games when we lose. Is he maybe having too good of a time? People are asking. People are asking. Also, people, like, at the beginning of the year, we're like, wow, is Killian kind of an NBA player? And then he plays like 2 bad games again and kind of reverts back to like he just had some bad games. And people are like calling for his head again. People are doing the whole Killian thing again. Okay. They're like, I saw a post that was like, come get your boy KOC. Like, oh, you guys are still doing that? You fucking losers. If you're still mad about like draft shit 4 years after the fact, I don't know what you want from, you know. Who's the worst player that you could put on the Pistons right now and they would make the playoffs? Because I think it's like whoever you think is the worst of Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Halliburton. I wouldn't put Halliburton in there. I would do Giannis, Luka, Jokic. Whoever you think is the worst of those 3, put them on the Pistons. I think they would make the playoffs. But other than that, I tell you what, that guy's not walking through the door. He's not. The untouchables right now, it should just be Cade, honestly. Because if I'm the Pistons and I'm like, if I'm worried about Durant's ankle at all and how that kind of is lingering, it kind of keeps being a thing. He played a great game against the Celtics, by the way. But if that's something that concerns you, it wouldn't shock me if he was out. But I think for all intents and purposes, they're going to do Cade. And I think even Shams reported this maybe, that it was Cade and Durant are kind of the 2 that they're like, we want to hang on to these 2. I also think it's incredible that Shams comes out and is like, he rattles off a few names that the Pistons are thinking about going after in free agency. And one of those names was Miles Bridges. And it's like, oh. Spartan dog for life right here. Like, I'm a Michigan State guy through and through. I was riding for Miles pretty hard. I think he's got the best music in the league. It's not close. But for a franchise that has been so hell-bent, even in the draft process of drafting the person, not the player. We care more about the person. We care more about the culture. That's one thing that Troy has done a really, really, really good job of, is establishing like a, from a character perspective at least, right? Because you're going to say, well, what is the culture? Fucking losing? Yeah, you're right. But I'm saying from a character perspective, like what I was saying about Isaiah Livers, these are all great dudes, minus Alec Burks. Fuck that guy. But these are all great dudes. Also, James Wiseman's probably a good dude, but fuck Alec Burks. So it just seems a little weird to bring in Miles Bridges. Are you going to bring in Kendrick Nunn too? What's Tyreek Hill doing? Does he want an NBA contract? You know what I mean? It just feels weird. Because then you're also doing this homecoming thing with Miles. And for those of you who are old enough to remember Mateen Cleaves, isn't that what ended up being one of the problems with him getting drafted by the Pistons, is it was like he was too close to home? You know? People were worried about that for what it's worth with Josh Jackson. When the Pistons brought in Josh Jackson, he had just done I think 2 years with Memphis, maybe 3. And they had kind of put him through this rehab. Not like a legit rehab, but they, were kind of trying to straighten him out a little bit, keep him in check. And when he came to Detroit, he didn't cause any problems. He called Ben Simmons a bitch at one point, but that was hilarious. That's just funny. That's just only funny, right? But no big problems there. I think he even was like, no, I go home every day. It was during training camp. Josh Jackson was like, yeah, I go home every day and my mom makes me lunch. That's just adorable. Miles Bridges is just like, is he just going to post crazy shit on his Instagram again? It'd be funny if he did. But then we'd be like, what are we doing? What happened to the culture that we cared about? You know what I mean? Do we not care about that anymore because Tom Gores is scared that he has a gun to his head and he just needs to win games? Please, for the final point of this segment, I'm begging you to stop making content about the Pistons. Please, stop watching us. Stop talking about us. You don't know what it feels like. I have earned the right to say this. Please leave us alone. Let's do something a little more lighthearted here. Something that kind of gets the juices flowing. We start doing some nasal exhales and shit. I'm also reading this email. I almost don't even have a take, I don't think. I'm reading this because I want you guys to chime in. I want you guys to explain to me what you think goes into what this email is about. So let's get into it. From Ryan. Greetings from Dallas. What makes a person's face punchable? I was watching the Mavericks play the Suns yesterday. Grayson Allen scored around 19 points in the third quarter, and every time the camera gave a close-up on him, I felt his face become more punchable. However, I started questioning the reason for this. Was it because he was doing well against my favorite basketball team? Was it because of his history of dirty/questionable plays? Was it because of the structure of his face? Or was it a combination of all three? So I turn to you, Mr. Hinkle, for a broader explanation. Why do certain people have punchable faces, and what are some of the most punchable faces in sports? Much love, Ryan. This is the essence of the show. Thank you for the email, Ryan. This is exactly what I love to read from you guys. And it's what are some of the other names that I want you guys to chime in on, because I don't know. I've been thinking about this. He sent this email 2 days ago. I've been chewing on it ever since, and I have no idea. But the science of what goes into these players that were like, I just want to fight this guy. I don't know why. You don't always see it in the NFL, and I think that's because they're wearing helmets. You don't see their faces literally the entire time. You know what I mean? Here's what I think it is. I don't think having a punchable face is like a biological, structural thing. I don't think it is. I think it's because of their previous actions that you just associate that person with like shitheadery, and so you're just immediately like, I want to fight this guy. I honestly think if Grayson Allen wasn't who he was at Duke and in the NBA too, what was the thing with Caruso? Was it last year that happened? Where it was kind of one of the first times since Duke that there was a major flare-up with Grayson Allen, because for the most part, he had kind of kept it in check. He had some moments here and there where like he was just annoying, but like such is life in the NBA. He's just an agitator, but he's also like good. You know what I mean? I think that's what makes it more annoying for people. If you had to look at all the guys in the NBA right now, who's the one? Well, let me say this take first. Everybody wants that guy on their team. Everybody wants that agitator on their team. I say this all the time. The Patrick Beverleys of the world. You know what I mean? The guys who have that predilection for stirring shit up. The Grayson Allens of the world. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's who you want on your team. When the Pistons got Kelly Olynyk like 2 years ago, I was irate. Because the Kevin Love thing was when he broke Kevin Love's shoulder in 2016? No, it couldn't have been 16. When he broke Kevin Love's shoulder, that was like, that's just to me who Kelly Olynyk is. I hated him at Gonzaga too, but that's just because he went to Gonzaga and fuck Gonzaga. But then what ended up happening? Turns out when you have that guy on your team and he's going to war for the guys that you're rooting for and the team that you root for, and he's pissing off the other team and it's working in your favor, you actually love that. So who's Patrick Beverley is, I think, the quintessential embodiment of what I'm going for here. Tony Allen was another one. Just a disruptor, just annoying. You know what I mean? Who is one in the NBA that all of us are just kind of like, I'm good, actually. Even his own team, even his own fan base, a lot of them would tell you, I'm good. It would be Draymond. Even his own coach, sometimes, whether he wants to admit it or not, and I'm sure 10 years from now, Steve Kerr will have like some book deal when he's like on bed rest because his back sucks and he's retired from the NBA. That was dark. I love Steve Kerr. I don't want him to, he'll be okay, but he's going to do something, right? It's a 30 for 30, whatever it is. And he's going to be like, I fucking hated that guy at the end. I did. I truly did. It wouldn't surprise any of us. I think it just comes down to that person's actions, their antics, because whether we want to admit it or not, the truth is that when Draymond kicked Steven Adams in the nuts like 8 years ago, yes, there were people that hated it at the time and that were mad at him at the time because it wasn't technically the first time he had done something like that, but it was definitely the funniest thing he had done up to that point. You know, that picture will live in NBA infamy as like one of the funniest stills of all time because Steven Adams, his hands are up and he's just kind of like, oh, and he's just got a shin. It's hilarious, but, you know, everything that's followed that, and I don't need to do a whole oral history on all the bullshit that Draymond has put everybody through, but I think that's really all that it is. And this is what I mean by I don't necessarily have a take. I kind of want to pass this off to you guys. I think it honestly is just as simple as it's you base it and associate it with the stuff that they've done in the past. And to your point, dude, it doesn't help when that person also goes off against your team. Speaking as a Lions fan, Ndamukong Suh, that's a guy you wanted on your team. You hated him when he wasn't on your team. Packers fans didn't like him. I don't know why Packers fans didn't like him, because how I remember it, Packers fans are always like, oh, he stomped on Aaron Rodgers. I'm pretty sure the story goes, Ndamukong Suh like sacked Aaron Rodgers and then saw that he had a spider like crawling around on him, and Suh was just trying to get it off him. He's like, oh, and then it ended up, right, so it kind of got blown out of proportion. That's really all that was. But then he bounced around, and then Lions fans kind of turned on him. You know what I mean? Because then all of a sudden, that guy isn't going to war for your team anymore. He's going to war against your team. And you become so much more aware of the little nuances of what they do, the little subtleties of how they push buttons. That shit's annoying. It's annoying. In 2023, I don't want to fight Grayson Allen anymore. I'm just kind of like, I think there's an art to what you do. There's a real craft that you've kind of honed here. But I'm going to pass this off to you guys. Let's read another email. Let's have a quick, 2-minute PSA on email etiquette. Okay. Because some of you guys, it makes me feel so bad when I can tell that you put genuine thought and effort into the email and you spent like 20 minutes writing it and doing all this research and stuff, only for me to read it and then go, this is just too long. I just can't read this on the show. If I put the phone right here, yeah, you guys can kind of see that. If I turn it too much, it'll just go out of focus. We got an email from Ethan here, and like, look at this, man. What the fuck? It just keeps going. It just keeps going. And to his, like, we just can't read this, man. What the fuck? To his credit, though, he did say, I know you hate nerdy numbers, which is like what this email is about, is numbers. But I'm diagnosed with autism and I'm on break from school, so I have nothing better to do. So what do you expect? That being said, I will not be devastated if you don't cover this topic. Ethan, I am saying all of this to say, just to give you something for the troubles that you went through. This is crazy. I can't read this, but I sincerely appreciate it. And I read every word of it, and I thought you made some interesting points. So, and sometimes you guys will like TLDR an email at the end. I super appreciate that, because then there's a fighting chance that it'll get read on the show, right? And I say this all the time, but just for posterity, you know, for those of you who have sent some stuff in and I just haven't read it on the show, keep throwing fastballs, right? You'll get one in there immediately or eventually. If you're having trouble getting me to read a like quote unquote seriously worded email where you like are actually trying to be like for real and you want to talk about numbers and you want to, if I'm not biting on that, just shitpost. Send me a shitpost email like, what makes a player's face punchable? I'm just more inclined to read that. I just am. But instead, we're going to do a slightly more concise, thank you, Ethan, for the email, a slightly more concise one from Matthew. And Matthew wants to know if NBA awards are meaningless. Let's get into it. I want to know if it's just me that feels that the NBA awards, especially the MVP award, have become boring to track and borderline meaningless in the NBA. In the NFL this year, you can make an argument for Purdy, Prescott, Allen, Hill, etc., all being MVP. You can even make an argument for Mahomes if you enjoy being wrong, or Jason Kelce if you need views for your WordPress blog. Zing! However, the NBA media appear to have given up on these awards and have instead resorted to picking up on someone every single week into the season. I'm sorry, a week into the season and giving it to that person. I am not sure who puts in less effort. Voters deciding the MVP or the NBA deciding suspensions for domestic violence. Zing! This guy is on a fucking heater right now. For example, despite the impressive play from Chet and Asar Thompson, we are just waiting for the remainder of the season until Wemby gets the Rookie of the Year award. And we did the same shit last year for Paulo. Dude, 100%. It is a similar situation with Coach of the Year. You cannot tell me that Steve Kerr should be considered Coach of the Year. I hate to be that guy who's like, but I can do that. But I can coach KD and Steph. It's called letting them be fucking KD and Steph. Then he goes on there. So there's a lot going on here, and he makes some great points. The only award that gets some debate is Defensive Player of the Year, but we also live in a world where Marc Gasol and Marcus Smart haven't won the award, have won the award, but Bam hasn't. This has turned into more of a rant than a question, but I just needed someone to hear me vent. Send me the invoice and I will pay you for the therapy session. But just remember the conversion rate to dollar dues. Kind regards, Matt. Probably one of the best, like, what did I say? He's on a heater? He is. What was the line about if you enjoy being wrong, or Jason Kelce for MVP if you need views for your WordPress blog? That was really funny. Here's what I think it is. I think with the NFL, the reason that you see it bounce around so much is because those games every single week, first of all, there are fewer of them, which means that every game has more and more weight. But also the spectacle of an NFL Sunday, it's like all eyes on, right? Where how many days in the NBA can you confidently say that most people are watching like 50% of the games, at least, which is a lot, by the way. Christmas Day. Okay, what else? Opening night, maybe? And that's to your point, right? To your point, we decide it too early. I'm going to zag here. I think we kind of wait too long to decide it. I think we toy with it's going to be this person in December, right? And then it's the MVP from like December to February is always the same guy. And then it feels like at some point down the stretch, there's always this kind of knee-jerk, like reactionary thing that happens where sometimes they'll just flip. We've talked on this show in the past about how the NBA has done kind of a dog shit job at just handing out like retroactive MVPs because a guy should have won it in the past. Is it kind of crazy that Russell Westbrook has an MVP? Is it kind of crazy? Which, by the way, I think he points that out in this email. I think he also points out that it's crazy that there was just a paragraph that I skipped, but I believe he also points out that it is insane that LeBron only has 4. Because if we're talking about who the most valuable player is, which is, by definition, the most valuable player, it's not necessarily who's the best player in the league, but for all intents and purposes, you would think more often than not that those two things would coincide. So LeBron James has only been the best player in the league 4 times. He's been in the league for like 20 years, and he's only been the... And by the way, he hasn't won one in, like a decade? What the hell? What's going on there? You know what I mean? It's weird. I don't think it's not that they don't matter, right? But I think that there's a lot less weight to them. And the Victor Wembanyama point is bang on because it's not even a question. We were talking earlier in the season, again, like you said, about Asar Thompson, about Chet Holmgren. And I think what Chet has going for him is the Thunder are sweet. The Thunder are sweet. He's not walking over in like warm-ups and stepping on a ball boy and turning his ankle. To Chet's credit, he's not doing that. Now, Wemby only missed 1 game for that, and I'm obviously kidding. But the spectacle of who and what Victor Wembanyama is, which is a fucking alien, by the way, is something that, like, we've been peddling this Victor Wembanyama content for too long just for him to not win Rookie of the Year. You know what I mean? And that's tough. That's tough because the truth is, if I'm Victor Wembanyama or if I'm a Spurs fan and I watch him play on the nights that he does play, yeah, a lot of the time I would say he probably does deserve it. He probably does. Who's the more polished player between him, Chet, and Asar? By the way, I wouldn't even put Asar in there anymore. It's no shade to him. It's just, it is what it is. It's Chet. It's Chet. And I don't know where they are age-wise. I just know that obviously Chet's technically been in the league a year longer, and Victor Wembanyama is like 12 years old. What one do people care about the least? Is it sneaky Depoy? Because people don't really care about defense. They don't. I think people are really indifferent about that. Most improved. People kind of get up for that one, though. And I do wish that people would better understand sort of how that award works, and that, you know, when your favorite rookie doesn't win Rookie of the Year, you're like, okay, well, that's fine. Sophomore campaign, like, he's just going to go for most improved. No, it's not an award for second-year players because you're supposed to be better in your second year, you know, unless you have that, like, insane leap. Was it Tatum's second year or his third year that his beard started to connect? It might have even been, like, his fourth year. Whatever year it was that Jason Tatum's beard started to connect in, like, the middle of January, it, like, changed the trajectory of his career. I think it was the following February, maybe it was 2 years ago. The following February, he averaged more points a game than any Celtic had ever, which is kind of incomprehensible, which, by the way, is a quick side note on Jason Tatum. He still dribbles, like, his dribble comes up so high. And this is kind of one of those things where we love to make fun of Sean Marion's shot, right? How just goofy it looks. He, like, practically shot with his pinkies. But he's been on record recently being like, the first time that anybody ever called that out, it wasn't in high school. It wasn't coaches. It wasn't like AAU. It wasn't in college. It wasn't the scouts. It wasn't during the drafting process. It wasn't my first year NBA coaches. It was nobody in the front office. It wasn't my teammates. It was some guy on the internet. It was like some beat reporter who was like, his mechanics are weird. And you're like, what? You're just some guy online. I only say that to say, who really cares if Jason Tatum's dribble is too high? He's fucking Jason Tatum. You know what I mean? This is kind of another one. I guess I'm realizing this in real time. I would love to hear people's takes on this. Maybe we'll do between this and the punchable face one. Maybe at the end of Monday's show, we'll do like I'll kind of compile some of my favorite responses, and we'll talk about it. We'll dive into it a little bit, just to kind of pass the baton off to you guys, and I don't know, maybe get some engagement here. I love hearing from you guys so much. Let's move on. Honestly, dude, this has been such a Yap-Fest of an episode. I didn't even realize we were already approaching an hour. So let's just wrap in the door. Let's just kind of start to reel this thing back in, because I've kind of been all over the place. Kind of getting back in the saddle. I had such a long week, man. Such a long week. I finally got to go back to Michigan, like I kind of talked a little bit about earlier. Hey, can I say something really quick? The video that I uploaded after the Nets game that I went to, which, by the way, I did real life pre-record that 2 games before we even broke the streak. So we played the Nets twice, and I was, both on the road and then at home before Christmas and the day after Christmas. And I recorded it before both of those games. So I was sneaky, like, I need them to lose these games because I'm actually proud of this video and the work that I put into it. It was the first video that I've uploaded, since I've come back, gotten back on the horse, that I was like, fuck, I hope this does well. Like, I really hope this video performs well. And you guys nailed it. Like, you guys crushed it. I'm very content. I'm very content with where that video ended up. So thank you all genuinely for that. If you didn't watch it, go ahead and check that out. It's just a video called 27 in a row from a couple days ago. But I've just been gassed. Holidays are exhausting. Saw everybody in the family, which was great. I really don't get to do that a ton anymore. Being in Chicago, anytime we get to go home, it's hard, man, to see everybody. some of you who are listening to this, maybe in like your first serious relationship, one of the harder things to navigate is like when you start to get into that serious relationship for the first time and you realize you have to sacrifice holidays with your family when in the past that's all that you've known. Is like, well, and then there's that guilt, there's that devastation of like, well, I don't want them to think I don't want to hang out with them, but I want to, we got to do the rounds. And it's like, if your parents don't suck, I am very grateful that my parents have always been like, yeah, dude, that's just how it works. Like, just go do whatever. It's okay. Like, we'll be here. It's no big deal. But there's still just that, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I want to hang out with you guys more, but we got to go do this thing. I'm also very lucky that I love my in-laws. They're like truly the best people. Really, really just something about being back in your hometown. There's that anxiety of like, I hope I don't run into someone. I really don't want to walk into this Dunham's, and someone be like, hey, whoa, PSA, big, this is real. I'm being so for real. The amount of comments that I got on the video I was just talking about, the community post I made, which one of you guys deleted yours, which was weird, and like 4 emails of people being like, I saw you at the game and I didn't want to say anything. Like, I didn't want to bother you. Please bother me. Please do it. Especially if you see me with other people. Seriously. Like, be for real. If I'm with other people, that is the best time to do it. If you ever see me with a woman who is like very, very blonde, that's the best time to do it. Okay? That's the best time to do it. There was one guy who my girlfriend and I were together, and we were on like Michigan Avenue, and this guy just starts tapping me on the shoulder, and I'm conditioned living in a big city that if somebody starts trying to get my attention, a wall goes up. You don't exist. You're not real, right? You have to do that. You have to do that. Otherwise, that's how you get got. You have to be an asshole. Sorry. And he just like kept doing it, and like I heard him saying something, and she like kind of gave me a look as if like she kind of like looked back and like gave me a look as if like, yeah, it's okay, you can turn around, like this guy doesn't seem that weird. And all he wanted to do was like take a picture. He was like, you're the guy? And I was like, I am the guy. And it was the fact that it was in front of her that I was like, see, I'm not just shit posting into the void. You know what I mean? This is resonating with the people. So if you ever see me, especially at a Pistons game, please do not feel like you cannot say hello to me. I promise I am a very nice guy, and I love having those conversations with you guys. Truly, it means the world to me. So it honestly bummed me out, truly, the number of people who were like, there was one guy who was like, I was like 3 rows behind you, and I wanted to say something, but you were with like people. I was like, yeah, I was with people. I hope y'all had an amazing holiday season. Got New Year's coming up. Ooh. College football playoff. Ooh. Oh, shit. I probably should have done... Is Monday... Oh, wait. If Monday... I'm realizing this in real time, dude. Should I not upload until Tuesday? Okay. Officially. Not uploading until Tuesday so that we can do a college football playoff recap, right? Let me do a quick date check. Yeah, okay. So the Coping Hour next episode will be on Tuesday, so that way we can talk about all of that. Probably should have said that up top. I'll put it in the description so that people don't miss it. I hope you guys, for those of you who are at an age where you've realized that getting socks as a gift doesn't suck, when you like really get amped about that, I hope you got socks. You know what my version of that this year was? Towels. Like bath towels. You know what I mean? Oh my God. The truly the rush of like getting adult shit for Christmas is such a good feeling. It is such a good feeling. Like the thing that you know you need, but you're just not going to spend money on it. Towels is a great one. I just don't want to do it. You want to talk about a scam? The hell's going on with the mattress market? It's always been this way. Anybody who tries to tell you, oh, it's a lifelong investment. It's a life investment. Spend the $3,000. No. I'll get one of those compressible ones off of Amazon for $300. Thank you very much. If it dies in 5 years, I only spent $300. Whereas if I'm spending $4,000, I'm putting like a down payment on a used Kia Forte on a fucking mattress. How do you even quantify $4,000 worth of sleep? You know what I mean? Is that 2 years? Is that 4 years? Do you get $1,000 worth of sleep every year? Do you get where I'm going with this? Mattress shopping, scam of the week. Scam of the week, mattress shopping, Mattress Firm. And that's the weird thing, too. How many... You see one Mattress Firm, you go down the street, you see another one, or just like a different mattress store, and you're like, so which one of you is the front? So which one of you is laundering? You know what I mean? Because it could be both. It could be both, but it's at least one of you. It's at least one of you. I had a bad barbecue sauce moment the other day. It was when we were like driving around looking for like Lions division title merch. Stopped at McDonald's, got my nuggies, got my barbecue sauce. And then we hit the freeway and we pull up. We're driving behind this car and they have a Ron Paul 2012 bumper sticker. I lost my mind because Ron Paul 2012 is like the funniest and most niche bumper sticker that you could possibly have. I had to take a picture of it. Problem was I was holding the barbecue sauce in my hand. So I go up to take the picture and I just launch barbecue sauce all over my like cream colored sweater. Brutal, right? But at that point, I hadn't even gotten the picture yet, so I'm just like looking at all of it. I'm like, damn. But I'm like, all right, well, it's already all over me at this point, so I might as well take the picture. I'm not even going to splice the picture in here because it's literally just a picture of a bumper sticker of Ron Paul 2012. All righty, ladies and gentlemen. What happened in this episode today? Who knows? If you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a like. You can subscribe. You can leave a little comment for the algorithm. Say, ooh, Nick, those fastballs today. Whoa. No, I already made that joke before. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I will catch you all.
Computers now have primary control.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful,
Primary control.
beautiful.
Primary control.